everyone who exalts himself. Does that sound familiar? Much of modern life is spent doing just that. Subtly, of course, for pride is always one step ahead of showing itself. There are subtle ways of doing it. How often do we talk about ourselves? How often do we direct the conversation? How often do we declare dogmatically our opinion? But then there is this plethora of self-exaltation in looking for an honourable place. It starts already in school, the playground, the class, the sports field, and then higher, scoring at external exams, a good pace at university, full throttle for a first-class honours, and then it starts, and then it starts. But where is it going? Some years ago, I was asked to give a course of lectures in a convent in Italy. They were 4 clairs of perpetual adoration, sacramentine, day and night without a break. And I was quite taken aback when at the grill appeared a tiny damsel. She was 19 or 20 and already fully clothed. And she asked me to accompany her, and that I still do at a distance. But it has hit me many times over since that encounter how this poor lassie, at the age of 19, chose not to do huge exams, chose to turn down many the potential propositions of marriage, and opted, and indeed with insistence, demanded that she be let in. And as she put it distinctly in her word, "E ha funzionato," it worked. She banged until she got in. Success? Her contemporaries, how many times have they by now been in irregular unions? How many great, interesting mortal sins have they put into their eternal baggage? How many perhaps have died in strange circumstances? But this one is hidden, did not want attention, and will never be known. Another time, my prior asked me if I would go and give a retreat to some other nuns in France. And that was something else. Probably the strictest monastery, or one of the strictest in the Western world. Victims of the Sacred Heart. Entirely old rite, liturgy never changed, double grill, and when I gave them their talks, eventually something would open in the wall, and I would see not faces, but veiled, unknown angels. No heating at all, and you could see your breath. Their role was to die. Their role was to hold up the world. And there was always somebody in prayer day and night before the altar. And you could sense that the fasting was so great that you could smell the odour of hurting interiors. You could smell it when you talked to them, if you were hearing their confessions, although you could never see their face. The scent of penance and death. But boy, did they live! And I thought to myself, success? There is, however, even in the career of the service of the Lord, a demon. careerism and self-exaltation even there, and where applicable, apply to yourself, for no one is excluded, and if you think you are, think again. The voice. I remember when a student in Milltown years ago, we broadcast Holy Mass from the college chapel, and we prepared well for it. And I remember how, when it came to the responsorial psalm, this damsel got up and, very attractively dressed, sang as a pop star to entertain the whole of Ireland. God bless her, she did her best, but I thought, exalting oneself, this time in the sanctuary of the Lord. And that is not of today either. One time, centuries ago, in the desert of Egypt, there was a monk who had a beautiful voice, and he knew it. And he was chanting away with all his lungs and his big beard working overtime to boot. And in the meantime, one of the monks who was nothing at all was shown something. His eyes were opened and he saw a demon in the back of the monastic church, beaming and counting the time. Careerism. I remember when in Rome studying Adam Scott, an abbot who didn't want to be an abbot and fled and became a Carthusian. He wrote about all the elements of the spiritual life and left no stone unturned. And it came to this one. And he, tongue-in-cheek, in a memorable passage, described what happened in chapter. The brethren are there, you've heard this before, it doesn't matter. All in solemn prayer, of course under the guidance of the Holy Ghost, waiting to hear what the Holy Ghost will dictate with regard to who is to be the next abbot. And so the voting goes on, and this one or that one is in profound recollection, with his eyes closed, and hears, yes, his name is being put in. Ah. And again, his voice is being put in. Ah. And again, his voice is going in to the voting pot. Ah. And then someone else's voice goes in. Another name comes up, and one eye opens. Slightly worried. The voting goes on. Then he opens two eyes. What? He says to himself. But it's not possible. They can't be thinking someone else. Pride in the house of God. I remember in France coming across a hidden saint who used to call herself, but without exaggeration or false pretense, le petit rien, the little nothing. She used to refer to her stigmata as her filth, mes saletés, and she would refer to ecstasies as ce sommeil, my sleep. And she was horrified when they would catch her sleeping. And that meant going up and up in levitation, ending up in trees. One of the greatest saints the church has ever produced. And she was, in her own eyes, the little nothing. She couldn't even read. And she didn't become a choir nun because she couldn't read. They tried it, and she just wanted to work. But how could she work when going into ecstasy? And one day they found out how all the work was done. The angels, when she was in ecstasy, would do the work for her, and it was always done. So true spirituality, my friends, is not one of those we identify with people who are so heavenly minded that they're no earthly use. One day, she knew what had happened to a superior who had died. Everyone presumed that that person had gone straight to heaven, so holy was her reputation. A superior who has much glory, no doubt. Oh no, not a bit of it. She was roasting nicely. And we were given to understand why. Another day, a nun died who was nothing at all. No glory in this world. Her name will never be known. But she went like a rocket. Why? Not once in her whole religious life did she lack in, now listen, it applies to you, in charity. That is not glorious. It's just one drop at a time of white martyrdom, never ever causing pain. Years ago in France, I was in confession, and the good priest just gave me the example of Thérèse of Lisieux. What we do in the monastery is not all that glorious. Cleaning showers, cleaning actually after the cows in the dairy is not sublime or angelic in mode. But he explained, Thérèse worked on the inside. Her glory was hidden. And you, if you want to, can do the same.